Right. Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to Rushcliffe Borough Council's Community Scrutiny Group meeting. I would like to remind everyone that the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. A recording of the meeting will be available afterwards on the Council's YouTube channel. In addition, under the local authorities, executive arrangements, meetings and access to information, regulations 2012, other people may film, record, post on social media or blog from this meeting. This use of any such images or sound recordings is not under the Council's control. May I remind councillors to please switch off your microphones when you are not speaking. Thank you. For tonight, we are joined by Darryl Birch, Service Manager Neighbourhoods, and Derek Hayden on far right, Community Development Manager. We were due to have a couple of other officers, but unfortunately they're unable to make it tonight. So just going to the first. We've actually just been joined by Ricky Smith, who's the Facilities Manager. So just going on to the first item, apologies for absence.
There are no apologies this evening, but Councillor Barney is going to be a little bit late.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do we have any at all from councillors? No. Item 3, minutes of the meeting on the 21st of March 2024. Do we have any comments on those on the minutes? And if everybody's content for me to sign those minutes, could I have a show of hands, please? Thank you very much. Right, well, just from that minutes of that meeting, I'll pass over to Darryl just to go through the list of actions as a result.
Yeah, thank you very much. So from the last meeting in March, there were 7 actions, 6 have been completed. So I'll just very quickly go through them. We were asked to provide information on how many homes and the age of properties that received solid wall insulation, which was 26, and they were aged around 1946. We gave details of Ed Ledley Owen as the contact for the team manager for the environment. And we shared some information around biodiversity net gain, BNG, and how that's now in law for both larger and smaller developments. We also provided members with a list of housing providers and what their plans were in relation to climate change policies. In relation to the streetwise report, there was 2 items put in council connections. One around a list of litter picking groups for councillors to help join and link in with them, and also some information was sent to councillors around the streetwise educational information to be shared with the group. The one action that's not been completed, and this is a longer-term aspiration, was the group asked eventually if we could look at the feasibility of providing an overview of various agencies so members understood who was responsible for which piece of grass or land, but that's a longer-term aim, I think it's probably fair to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Darryl, for going through those. Right, now moving on to the main item of tonight's agenda, the use of community facilities and open spaces. So I'll pass over to Derek.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Now I'm just going to share the presentation. One second. Excellent. Thank you. So thank you all for this evening. Apologies, we've got some staff illnesses, so we would have another colleague joining us today. The scrutiny this evening is on the use of community facilities and managed spaces. I have provided some additional handouts regarding marketing literature and a blog from our relationship and work that we do with Streetwise Environmental as something for you to have an additional look at to give some context when I'm talking in relation to the marketing. I have some embedded videos, and I also have a short montage video which highlights all of the a montage of all of the videos that we've produced in terms of the marketing. So I will endeavour to play that at the end if the technology allows. The recommendation for this evening is to consider the context of the report and the presentation and make comments on the provision of the community facilities operated by the council. I have tried in the presentation to provide you a narrative on the key lines of inquiry from the scrutiny matrix, and Ricky, who is the facilities manager who's ultimately responsible for all of these sites, is here if you have any particular operational questions on the day-to-day delivery of the buildings. Please feel free to ask questions at the end. I think it'll be a useful point of discussion. So the community venues for hire, which are subject to the scrutiny this evening, are Rushcliffe Arena, the building in which we are in. We publicly hire out all of the ground floor committee rooms and the council chambers to the community. Sir Julian Khan Pavilion in West Park, in 1926, constructed pavilion on the grounds of West Park. Gamsden Community Hall in Gamsden, which is a two-court badminton hall, a two-court badminton main hall, and a small hall adjacent with ancillary kitchen and toilets and associated facilities. West Park Sports Pavilion, which is a change in pavilion and ancillary to the playing fields, but also has a meeting room for up to 30 people. Rushcliffe Country Park Education Centre Conference Room, which is a newly refurbished space up to about 30 space meeting room with integrated Wi-Fi and AV technology. These are managed under our Switch digital booking system. When we last came to scrutiny in 2020, we had a basic booking system called CAFM, but it didn't have any external capabilities and didn't have any invoicing infrastructure. So what the Switch digital booking system now allows people to do is view online availability and book and pay online, which the old system you were not able to view and book online. So it required you to call our administration team and make a booking, and so it was just a very much a back end basic system. So we have made significant steps since 2022 when this system was came into use. It is delivered by a Rushcliffe based business based in Tollerton, provide the system, and it's due to the nature of our venues, every venue is different with different arrangements and different capabilities. So it's very much building it to be bespoke to fit the needs of our requirements. So on the system, we have a landing page with some pictures in terms of the various events that we have on our venues. The Borough Council's website didn't have the capabilities to be able to have marketing images. So when you went to the Borough Council, it had a very small thumbnail picture. So it didn't really give you a sense of what the venues were capable of holding. Then you're quite quickly go through to a landing screen, which is the back end switch system, which provides you all of the venues and what they're capable. So what we've done is we've broken down each venues into occasions. So if you want to have an adult party or a children's party or a function, it triages you and puts you into a bucket to take you to the building that's appropriate. So instead of you having to go through each one of those buildings to understand what that is, because as I said previously, they're all quite different. For example, we can have bouncy castle parties at Gamsden because it's a sports hall and it's got a high roof. But if you were to have a bouncy castle at Sir Julian Khan, you would go through the roof. So for that reason, and trying to channel the customer down, it means that we're much more responsive to their needs and they're not getting in an endless loop of trying to find out so they get on. So a real trying to channel shift. Also, when you click onto the information, I know it doesn't render very well on this screen, and we will share these slides after. It gives a narrative in terms of what it can take place in that venue, how arrangements, and a bit of the history of the site. It also provides you with live availability and what bookings are in on that space. There was a question in the scrutiny matrix about what the capabilities of the system were. So this just provides a picture snapshot of the back end of the system where it shows all of the availability. It shows that because of the nature of our multi-facilities, Ricky's team go from building to building. So we don't have people based on site. So the facilities staff travel from West Park to Gamsden, and throughout their day, we work on a 17-hour shift rotation, 7 days a week. So we have availability 7 days a week over those hours. So 7 till 11 is when we've got staff on shift working in 2 pairs, so a morning shift and an afternoon shift, and they will travel across our venues responding to those customers. The shading, as you can see, allows for cleaning, room arrangements, changeover, and that's built into the system. And then we've got the operations dashboards, and CMS allows the administrative team to respond and answer inquiries, because we have, again, we had to have an administrative team. So it's not just one person that will respond to queries. They will say that this person's responded to this initial query, and then the customers come back, but that person's working on another piece of work. So the other person can pick it up and take that query. So ultimately the customer is served. And we have a huge array of performance information and data intelligence. Previously to implementing this system, we were relying upon what queries had come in, and we didn't have a rich sense of data intelligence. So now I can monitor who's abandoned their basket, who's not completed their booking, where those came from, where the queries are, when somebody's cancelled the booking, the reasons for why, and that's building up a picture of intelligence that we can go back to those customers to better understand why they have not completed. Was it a reason for the facility? Did they find an alternative venue? So that gives us a lot more data intelligence that we can play with to try and increase our bookings and our capabilities for the facilities. So this, in terms of Ricky and his staff, we have room runner reports that's embedded within the system. So for this evening, the arrangement that we're in, so we need a horseshoe shape hybrid meeting room with internet capabilities and microphones. All that is contained within the booking system, so that the team and it's been a significant transition across this period, have that information and are able to then make those room arrangements to meet the customer's needs. With these venues, there's a lot of different arrangements, and particularly at Rushcliffe Arena, it's quite complex technology that we're dealing with. So what we need to be able to understand what those individual customer requirements are. So the more information that we can capture and that the customer can put in, the better we're able to meet their needs. I think Ricky would say that one of the challenges we find is they'll book the room, put no additional notes information for what they require. So we still are on a journey of trying to get in, to put in as much information so that we can be right first time, every time. And that is a journey both for internal staff and external staff. And it's something as a part of our improvement programme. We also track occupancy and finance reporting. So the cash generated from how much bookings we have if everybody completes and continues, and then what the occupancy levels are as well. So we used to, and in the body of the report, have an aggregated figure. Now we've got much more intelligence in terms of what's downtime, what's occupied, booking time as well. So it better informs it's a more accurate data intelligence that can inform future business decisions and rooms, what room is doing well, what room is not doing well. So on the community venues, I've tried to provide some context and narrative from 22, 23, the monthly occupancy, and 24, 25, just to give you a snapshot of the buildings and where we are. And I've also cross-referenced that with our targets and our income. It's only fair to say that we have had challenges in a post-COVID world with COVID recovery and trying to hit our budgetary targets. There's many reasons for that. We're very proud of the fact that, to give one example of many, we're very proud of the fact that Gamston Community Hall was used for a vaccination centre and provided over 100,000 vaccinations, but that facility was closed for a year, and the people were not able to use that venue. Some of them, when they were returning, found alternative venues, and we needed to do a significant level of refurbishment because it was very heavily used. So it's taken time to recover from that. So against a budgetary target in 23-24 of 56,000, we achieved 34,000, and our target in 24-25 is 46. The reason that is slightly less than the 23-24 target is we have a capital project to change the boiler system to a green alternative from a gas boiler to a air source heat pump alternative. So we've built into some downtime where we won't be able to take bookings. Sir Julian Khan, West Park. So if you look at Rushcliffe Country Park, we're just under target. Gresham's meeting room is an interesting one because the meeting room at Gresham, although it runs through the switch system, it actually runs through a different system called pitch booking, but for clarity, I've included into this thing. It's ancillary to the pitches, so you can use the pavilion if you're using it, so it's not always available. And some of those groups that it's booked through the pitches, it's not recorded. So I'll reflect on that when we touch on the pitches. And then Rushcliffe Arena, against a budgetary target of 16,000, we surpassed that target. One of the challenges we found with this building has been the hybrid technology and the need for members and the room arrangements, which is limited some of the ability to be able to satisfy all of bookings. But we have a program in place to work on that. So I think in summary, the community venues, whilst we are seeing improvement both in occupancy and in income, and there are a number of other factors which I referenced in the report, it is difficult. It's still challenging in terms of the community venues to recover back to a post-COVID occupancy and income. I was asked to provide you just a flavour to give you an understanding of the type of bookings that we have at our community venues. Our community venues there's an element of social value, so it's not just commercial bookings that we're after. Rushcliffe Arena is our biggest. We've got a church-based group that's come here at the weekend, taekwondo, dancing group, tumble tots, another church group, an educational tutoring provider, another church group, and police training that took place here at Rushcliffe Arena. So we have worked over the last year to try get some more commercial bookings. The Nottingham Police, the police training is a good example because they had this venue over a 2-week period, exclusively taken out committee room 1 and 2, and for all day for their training session because they've consolidated some of their estate. So it's a really good example of the type of booking in the public sector that we're keen to explore and build upon. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to. But we have done a lot of work on. We've also done a lot of work on reviewing of fees of charges. We've had traditionally a lot of people on discounted rates, so we've done a lot of work with audit on bringing customers back in line with fees and charges. And for some reasons, we've lost some customers because they were on a discounted rate. And what we've tried to do is bring them back in line with the public fees and charges, so that it accurately affects what the council's doing, but also to ensure that it complies with the booking system, because the booking system can't deal with people if they're going on and booking but the right prices and rendering. We've done a lot of work in terms of staff training and structure support, and we've brought in some competency frameworks to support the facility staff. We've reviewed the online platforms and we continue to make service improvements. We've reviewed the discount and promotional rates, as I've alluded to. We've been doing a lot of work on marketing promotion of the venues, and we're working on irregular hire contracts and booking management so that we'll have a contractual arrangement with our regular hires so that we can provide them a better customer experience. Moving on, I've got some embedded videos which I'm probably not going to, they might start playing, but I'm not going to do it, but I'll show you. It just highlights some of the marketing posts and some of the online social marketing videos, and it gives you a flavour of the different arrangements. So we've highlighted the bouncy castles, which I alluded to, at Gamsden and the Rushcliffe Arena as well. So they're going to play, they'll be quiet, but I'm going to flick through them. Because I have one that I'm going to play on a larger screen because I appreciate it's a little bit hard to see, but I'll show you at the end, and then you can review this video as well. So, moving on to playing fields, parks, and open spaces. So, when we talk about playing fields, we have a number of open spaces across the borough, but playing fields are the ones that we hire for formal sports. So we have West Park cricket pitch. We've got Alfred Road playing fields. We've got Gresham Sports Park, which incorporates the two AstroTurf pitches, which are used for training, and the grass pitches on that site. We hire out the croquet lawn for markets and events within the town centre, and we hire out Bridgefield are the primary venues. It is possible to hire out Bridgeford Park, but it's and the Hook, for example, but it's very rare that we would do that because we are custodians of the land and we have to make sure that we're protecting those assets and finding that right balance and blend between the protection of the green space and then monetizing them. So it's very rare that we would do that. These fields and open spaces which I've got are ran through a combination of pitch bookings, which is the second digital platform that we use, and the switch system. So the playing fields are ran through pitch bookings, which allow for multiple combinations and all of the different sizes of pitches that can be hired. We also separately have a tennis provider who provides tennis at West Bridgeford Park and West Park. They have an online website, but they don't have an online booking system, and they do that through a telephone call system. We are working with them, the current provider, to see about how that can. There's an ongoing discussion about our tennis provision and how that service is delivered moving forward, because obviously we've got an online platform, so there's no reason why people shouldn't be able to view, book and pay online and get an access code to use those centres. So that is a live thing that we're reviewing currently. This just gives you a flavour of the pitch booking website. So pitch bookings provide playing fields for lots of public services across the UK and Ireland. This is the landing page for the Borough Council, and it shows Gresham Sports Park and all the pitches that can be booked. Previously, you had to ring up, and you could only do that by contacting our booking team, and that was done via paper diary system. So now you can go in, you pay online. What is significant about our online booking systems, everything is paid for in advance. So we used to operate that, somebody used to use the systems and we used to invoice in arrears. Now, when you're booking a space, you are inputting a card details and you're paying online in advance of the booking, and the money will be taken from your card at 12 midnight before your booking. I think Ricky and the team have had significant challenge with teams that have a tendency to fold because we have a lot of users of our sites, and then that can cause a problem if they've had some pitches and then the team has disbanded for whatever reason and then trying to chase that. So the way the system operates is they book the pitches, and they can book quite a few pitches. It'll take the money midnight before the game takes place. If we cancel the pitch for whatever reason, weather related or cancellations, the money's not taken from the card, and they can cancel it up to 72 hours before the booking. The reason for that is is to enable us to be able to resell that space. And that's where we've reviewed some of our policies and procedures, because previously it was like 28 days, but realistically nobody's going to cancel a pitch 28 days before the booking. So we've aligned our policies and procedures to make sure that we're flexible and adaptable for the customer's needs, but also to make sure that we're not losing that income and we're enforcing the rules that we have. Again, so this is a really positive picture. We have had a capital redevelopment of Gresham Sports Park. So if you're familiar with that site, we've gone from 1 AGP to 2 AGP. So we adjusted our target significantly in 23-24 to reflect that. So had an income target of 108,000, achieved 167,000. You'll see from West Park, we had a figure of 8,000, achieved 9,000. We've had a significant uptick in the demand for cricket at West Park, with evening games. Alfred Road has suffered significantly from flooding over the year, with Storm Henk and Storm Babette. So we under-recovered on Alfred Road. Rushcliffe Country Park had a very ambitious target of £70,000, but achieved 66,689. And as you'll appreciate from a country park environment, that's really, really healthy. That is largely related to the contracts that we've got, related to the catering and the bookings of the open space on that site. It's not related to car parking or any other arrangements on that site. Bridgeford Park Bridgeford Park, for the purposes of this report, incorporates the croquet lawn and bridge field. We had a budgetary target of 27,000, achieved 20,327, and I've tried to highlight where we've exceeded target in green, bringing against our actual achieved of 275,000 against a budgetary target of 223, so overachieved our target. We've tried to, for the purposes of this scrutiny, really highlight where that is. So you can see Alfred Road accounts for 3% of our bookings, and that is largely due to the flooding. Gresham, heavy saturation on AGPs, and you'll see that if you see some of the parking challenges that we've had in the past year, in terms of it's a very popular location. Gresham grass pitches, Gresham's meeting room, West Park cricket, and the West Park minis. And I alluded to the fact in the substantive report that we have a proposal to move mini football to Alfred Road and concentrate on more of a cricket-based facility at West Park. Again, I was asked to provide a little bit more detail on who our major bookers are. So West Bridgeford Colts, which is the largest grassroots football club in the UK. So not just Nottingham, not England, in the UK. So the four home nation. So they use sites across Rushcliffe, quite a lot of Rushcliffe in the city, in Clifton as well. So they had 949 bookings. Score, which is a pitch provider, which to provide holiday activities. Again, Pro Direct Academy, which are an academy which we had, which has ceased trading with us now. Nottingham Touch Rugby is based at Gresham as well, and West Bridgeford Rugby Club, which use Alfred Road. We also, on the open spaces, so as you would probably imagine, Bridgefield takes the majority of our income, with the Trent Bridge Test match day parking, then the farmers market, and then the stalls market. So we have another market operator, and that just gives you a brief snapshot of what they take. Again, I've touched upon this, and I'm conscious of time. We have done a lot of work in terms of reviewing the fees of charges. We've tried to simplify the fees and charges for pitches. So we had variable rates, and we had peak and off-peak rates. Now, because of the training facility at Gresham, it's always peak, because if we have any demand whatsoever in the evening, it's filled within seconds. We've got waiting lists. We've got waiting lists for that. We've reviewed the payment terms, as I've alluded to, in terms of people paying in advance. We have got online subscription, so it's a privilege that people can book the pitches. So, if they become bad debtors and if they've got a subscription with us, it's We operate a 3-strike rule, so if we've had issues with them, so they don't have that privilege of having a card in the system. So if they would want to ring up and book, they'd have to book it online and pay for it. We've looked at income diversification, so a really positive thing. So it's not reported in this year because obviously it's a review of the last 12 months. We have had, we're very pleased to have hosted New Zealand Touch Rugby. We were here for a week for when they played in the World Touch Tournament, which has taken place at the university campus. We have had England Touch have used this for days and have got another day booked. We've had a huge Nottinghamshire Police knife crime event, which was an incredibly busy day, which Ricky was very kind to come off holiday and work the entire weekend from 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the evening to support that. We've done a lot of work on marketing and promotion, and we've done a lot of work on the capital improvement. So we continue to invest in Gresham. But in the body of the report, I talked about West Park, and we had a live planning application. I'm pleased to say that that planning application has been granted now. So looking at the strategic driver for West Park as a cricket space, we will now be able to provide cricket nets, which there's a deficit of cricket net facilities in West Bridgeford. So we'll now be able to cater for cricket net practice, because the 2 cricket nets on site there are at the end of their useful life, so need to be replaced. So we've been working with the ECB and partners to provide an appropriate solution within that space that meets the need of the community, but also been sensitive to the residential development, the residents within the neighbourhood as well. One important thing as well is and I'll touch upon this when we go to capital improvements. I'll touch upon Alfred Road when we talk about capital improvements. So again, I'm not going to dwell on these for too long, but it's embedded in the presentation when you look at it. We market our tennis courts, which that will play, and then we market our cricket at West Park. So if you want to have a cricket match, you can go and use the artificial turf pitch on a weekday at Gresham. Oh no, it's gonna stop that. Sorry. Yeah, it's just my screen has done something funny. So I need to get rid of that. I need to get rid of that. I need to go to the next slide. And in terms of, I talk about improved signage as well. So we've done, Ricky and the team have done a lot of work. We used to have a telephone number, but now obviously we're trying to be digitally enabled so people can go on overnight and book it. So that's why you'll see for our pitches, we've got the pitch booking website details on that as well. If this is good, just to touch on capital improvements, as a council, I'm really proud to say that the council has invested heavily in the spaces. You may have had the opportunity to go to Rushcliffe Country Park. There's been a transformative change within that site. It's used by cabman businesses, the Friends group as a really multifunctional space. The significant change about that building is got it's hardwired Wi-Fi, and it's got AV technology, and it can be used like here. So it's really resilient as well, not only for external customers, but internally, that senior management team can go and have their meetings there, but also staff can hot desk there within the staff environment as well. We have had lots of capital investment in green technologies, and you can see the EV charges, which we have got at Gamston, Rushcliffe Country Park and Gresham. We've levered in capital grants for the cricket wicket at West Park, and has been identified as a key site for improvement for the ECB. And this is particularly in relation to women and girls sports, because you'll be aware that Nottinghamshire County Cricket has been identified as one of the founder counties for women's professional sports. So working with them, they've identified that they want to have a deeper collaboration with us around cricket at West Park. And that's why we're looking to move football over the winter, which damages the outfield at at Alfred, at West Park to Alfred Road, and you'll see that balances off the percentage usage on Alfred Road. So what we're trying to do is think strategically and moving around so that we're maximising the uses of those spaces, but also thinking about how we support for the futures. Ricky's team also support all of the other spaces for the playground investments that we've had, the commercial cafe that we've introduced at Rushcliffe Country Park. We have had a programme of installing changing places for facilities at the country park and at Gresham. So those are facilities that provide changing spaces where people can change in dignity with the most profound disabilities. So they've got hoists and beds, and we've converted a changing room at Gresham to be able to support that. There's another picture of an opening of a playground and the Gresham Sports Park, which was developed in 2021 and 22 during the height of COVID. So we weren't resting on our laurels when some of our venues were closed. Just to touch on the next 12 to 18 months, I briefly touched on before that Gamston's going to benefit from a decarbonisation project, and we're going to fit an air source heat pump, which we've levered in, and as is Sir Julian Kahn Pavilion. We've levered in £132,000 SALEX funding to enable that. Sir Julian Kahn Pavilion was last redeveloped in 2005, so it's ready for an internal refurbishment, and it's been in the capital programme since 2018. So we've levered in some grants to deliver that in this financial year. So work will start in March on that. But what that will do is, in terms of the changing demands and trends for the facilities, it will be Wi-Fi enabled and will have the technology similar to this building, because we've seen a gradual movement away from adult parties and the requirement for bar facilities. So we need to be able to better respond to those changing trends moving forward. And also I've included the Roseway as a picture, because I don't have a building to be able to show you, but we have a planning application which we received last year for the development of a community facility off Roseway to serve the Sharphill Edwalton community area as a part of that development, and that will be incorporated in the wider facilities management that we serve in that area. So obviously that's a whistle-stop tour in terms of the depth and breadth of the services that we provide, which answer the scrutiny metrics. I have one quick video montage, which I'm going to attempt, if I can stop sharing that, and pull my internet up. And no, that's not the one. Is this one? And if I can go and share screen. Oh, no, it's not that one. It's this one. You're probably going to have to enjoy this without sound, but because I don't want to kill it. But what I've tried to do, if you use our social media and our channels, and if you go onto the website, we have worked with the media team to really try and market the venues that we've got. This is a 90-second montage of all of the videos, so they're all about 90 seconds long, but I didn't think I wanted to put you through the pain of like 15 minutes of watching videos. So just to give you a flavour. It's got some jazzy music that sits in the background, so I'll just talk over it, but you can see the various room layouts. So if you're a customer sitting at home, or you're a business and saying, what can we provide? It just shows you that was post redevelopment of the country park and the horseshoe arrangement. You know, it's a great facility, the country park. You're able to go and walk and use it. So it's one thing that we're keen to market. So we've been sharing these stuff out. This is Gresham. So we've got some aerial footage as a part of the redevelopment. We work with some of the teams down there, and it shows different uses that we've got. So that's on the pitch booking website. You know, it's a fantastic facility. Gresham, we're very lucky again that we levered in so much money. Gamston, the badminton that's there. just to illustrate that it's a sports hall. And what we're trying to do is market more towards its actual niche. So it's more sports hall type activities, exercise classes, bouncy castle, children's parties. And we really want to refocus back what the USPs of these venues are. So West Park, Sir Julian Khan is a 1926 former cricket pavilion. We really want to exploit that in terms of its USP, because we tried to be too many things to too many people. And we've got really good quality tennis courts and that as well. So people can go online and book those as well. I provide a summary of how we market those against the planner that's on your table, and then obviously the marketing strategy of what we aim to achieve with that, which is a 20% increase on occupancy to get it back to our 50% target, and a 15% increase over the lifetime of the plan to bring us back on target for our income. Any questions?
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Derek. I think if we see how many facilities that we've got, and thank you very much to Ricky and the team for managing those, and kind of as we can see with the usage, particularly around with the sports pitches, how high that is, and the development, and potentially in a night we'd have like even more of those because of how busy they are, which is fantastic. And it's just going on that, on the ethos of what we have as a council for the sports facilities and the community facilities. So I'll just open it up to the floor. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Chair. Pretty impressive, I have to say. And the information on the achievement against the budgeted targets was quite instructive. But do we have, from a top level point of view, knowledge of whether we make a net surplus, or whether we're actually subsidising some of these activities?
So yes, so we try to be cost neutral, and the targets are set to reflect that. So, but they are incorporated into the overall budget setting of the authority. What I would say is that community venues provide a lot of social value. So in terms of the council, so the idea of the community venues is to be able to provide, where there's market failure or there's not a market revision, the community venues which we operate are providing services to the community in Gamsden, Central West Bridgeford, and those areas. I think the challenge we have is from venues where there's adult parties, and that we've got a really strong footprint in West Bridgeford. So we're really trying to be the village hall type venue and provide affordable, accessible venues to meet that community need. So in answer to your question, you can see where we haven't hit our budget target. It's trying to get to that balanced budget. But overall, the council is subsidising all our venues because of the social element to it.
I think that's actually a really, really good question to start the scrutiny as well, because I think we cover it slightly in the financial implications, where we actually say there is an expectation of council that it should cover its costs. But as Derek said, it's also what value that social value adds to it as well.
Okay. Councillor Phillips, sure.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about Gresham Sports Park and pitches. So the target 23-24, 108,000, and the actual 167, which is absolutely brilliant. But why we've reduced the target again for 24-25? Is there spare capacity at Gresham? And if there is spare capacity, what we're going to do about all the parking, because that's an issue now. And is the opportunity to use the school at weekends when the school's not being used for parking?
Thank you. Yeah, good question. So the target hasn't changed. So the target has been the same. I did have a discussion about the target been raised for Gresham. So it's not been reduced. So it was 108,000 in 23-24, and it's still 108,000 in 24-25. One of the reasons for that is we did have a daytime operator, which was Pro Direct Academy, and they have ceased operating. They've gone to another venue. So we'd allowed for that to see if that would impact upon us. So in terms of so that's why the budget didn't change. But I'm very confident that we will significantly outstrip our target because we're outperforming our target for the first quarter because we're not in football season yet. So it's strange quarter one because you get about a month of a football season, the end of the football season for April. Then people go away for the end of the football season until September. So it looks low, but we're actually above our target because we've attracted all of these additional events and tournaments that have taken place over the summer. In answer to your question about capacity, we're pretty much full from 5 o'clock in the evening till 10 o'clock at night, Monday to Friday, and then all day Saturday and Sunday, as you can probably attest to from the amount of parking that we have on site. Where we have got latent demand is during the day. So our key target, and we're also full over during the day during holiday times because that score provide holiday activities, so we're full then as well, and that's during the day. Where we have a gap in demand is getting a daytime user. What we want to do is make sure that we get the right daytime user because there's a lot of players within that market, and ideally we'd like to try and find an education provider, and we've had some initial discussions with a higher level education provider that is really looking to have a base that would mean that we will probably about 95%, 98% occupancy. So it would mean that from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, that venue would be fully occupied using those two 3G pitches. That's the holy grail. At the moment, we're full in the evenings, and at the weekends it's just, and we do have daytime bookings, but what we don't have is a Monday to Friday because we've got the university in on Wednesday afternoons. But what the ideal is, because we could just go, that's the footprint and we're fully booked. We wouldn't have to do any marketing of the pitches. Is Monday between 8 and say 4 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and partially Friday because we've got bookings on the daytime and the Friday as well. Sometimes on a Friday evening we're less busy but what we've done is we've taken bookings from we used to have some issues with people climbing over the fence getting in, but we've done a great deal of work and Ricky and his team with Notts County Community Trust, and we're getting people coming through the gate instead of coming over the fence, and we're really meeting that community need in that respect as well. Parking remains to be a challenge. We're working with the school. We are somewhat impacted by Nottingham Forest being successful in getting into the Premiership, and the schools need to rent out their spaces as well. There's not an infinite amount of parking. We've seen development in that ward. We are looking about how we use that car park, making sure that nobody's parking right because it's strategically located for the tram as well. So it's very much under a watching brief. We're working with our county council colleagues because of the on-street parking issues that we've got, but it's very much we're trying to do everything we can, but it is somewhat a victim of its own success. This is where we're trying to shift demand and making sure that we don't saturate with too many games all at the one time, so that we're trying to shift around that demand level throughout the day so it balances off the parking requirements.
Yeah, you just mentioned the on-street parking. What concerns me more is the on-shared footpath and cycle path parking the whole length of Gresham Road. So, maybe we ought to ensure we get parking enforcement down there and slap tickets on them all, because then I think that will stop people parking there.
Yeah,
They are. Parking wardens are coming down there on a regular basis, and unfortunately, it was the England touch rugby that got hit. They were the first ones to get hit.
Yeah. So, so on that, there are some avenues that we were exploring about how can, would it be appropriate to park in a car park that's not as busy and have a 5 minute, 10 minute walk, but you're accommodating that. But we are, as I said, liaising with parking enforcement from some of our correspondence. We also, at the start of the season, I would really want to encourage people that live within the community that are playing at home and it's strategically located for the tram, to use public transport, to get on a bicycle, to walk to the venue, to car share. So we send out that because it fills our green agenda. It is frustrating, and I understand it because we're all guilty of it. It's frustrating when you see parents coming with one child for a team of 5, 7, and then you've got like 14 cars instead of putting in. But I understand, and that's more of a societal change that we're trying to push out in terms of nudge about parking's tight, please car share, please come. So we can't continue to do that as well.
Can I just start on the with the car parking at the site? I take kind of liaising with the big sports clubs that are utilising the site. Are they kind of doing it with the members, just kind of with being considerate and where's kind of appropriate for them to park, and also is there kind of anything of the pinch points just at that site in relation to the parking with the timing, or is it just constant kind of, because I'm kind of going on experience with other venues that I know in my ward with parking issues on evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of asking, like with changeover of teams playing, that type of situation, is that kind of been looked at just to kind of alleviate the flow and of when people are turning up and then leaving and then the next lot come in?
So good question. Yes. So the answer. So what we've tried to do is, so the pinch points are at the weekends, Saturdays afternoons, Sunday mornings. That can sometimes coincide with Nottingham Forest being at home, and then you've got a very close venue. It also has a pinch point that now that the adjacent school is hiring out some of their venues. They've had some tournaments which caused some challenges. So we've met and spoke to have a better communication in terms of alerting this to if they have large scale tournaments. We've, to give an example in terms of maximisation, so we've got lots of grass pitches, but we've got a major tournament that's going to take place down there on the AGPs. We will take out the grass pitch bookings, so you don't have that duplication of. So if you've got lots of people coming to use the AGPs, we'll take the grass pitches out to try and manage that flow. Ricky's is working with some of the teams where we've got like some of the smaller teams and try to do staggered kickoffs. Sometimes it can be a challenge with the league because, it's always Saturday at 3:00 and it was ever dust in all the leagues. But
The league won't move on the times. Unfortunately, when we had the police tournament, we had over 750 people there. But when you've got policemen standing on the island directing them, everybody did as they was told for the whole day.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was the first time ever I've seen parking really work. And because we were supposed to have a fire engine come up that had to be on call, nobody parked on the entrance road at all for the whole day. But unfortunately, because the school now rents out to Forest, people tend to come up the road to park at Forest, see that there's a price on it. Oh, Gresham's there, we'll nip in there. So we are fighting a battle all the time over parking, but all we can do is try and monitor it the best we can.
I just one of the things that Councillor, in the answer that you gave to Councillor Phillips, you kind of said about the university on a Wednesday.
Mhm.
Is it only at that kind of venue that that's kind of been done? Because like with the West Part and cricket and some of the other items, is that something that's kind of explored with elsewhere that you mentioned?
Yeah, so it's varsity football that are playing, so they use both of the AGPs on a Wednesday. When we're looking at grass pitch maximisation, you can probably get two matches in a week, so that's Saturday and Sunday. It becomes quite difficult to try without a significant investment in streetwise to prepare the pitches, and particularly during the winter months to get in a third match. So we can only really accommodate. So in terms of sports, the university have come to us for the need for pitches because they can play matches on them. But then, we might have a conversation about the nets that we're going to be looking at West Park, and so there are avenues, but what you need to have is a surface that is able to sustain it in all weathers. So we don't have a need there's not a demand for tennis or rugby at the moment because of where the rugby pitch is located, and the university's need for tennis courts is not there.
Yeah, I was just thinking with the traditional kind of Wednesday afternoon with universities then playing sport and that, and when they're kind of looking for pitches, I was just wondering if that was kind of an avenue to help with the upturn during the week when a lot of the venues aren't having any usage with the sports kind of facility.
So the university are in at Gresham on a Wednesday.
Yeah. I just think with West Park with cricket, for instance, because I knew one of the university cricket teams was having difficulty in finding a Wednesday pitch, and they were having to go as far as Spottisford in Leicestershire to play their matches. So if there's kind of a scope that's a bit closer to home in Nottingham and the surrounding area, then they might be applicable. So I don't know if there's that kind of opportunity there on a Wednesday, certainly.
Yeah, so I'm conscious I'm going into quite a lot of detail, but it's a really interesting part of the council because there's so much information. So for cricket, as you'll be aware, we have a partner called West Bridgford Legion who maintain the grass wicket, and we're obviously looking to work with Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club for a deeper relationship with them about the potential of using that and preparing that grass wicket. So we are able to accommodate teams that book our artificial wicket. So if that team that you described are wanting a grass wicket, then that would be problematic. However, if they wanted the artificial wicket that's at West Park, which we've just recently replaced last year with a grant, then absolutely. And that's why you can book online now. So we have quite a really, I think we were full at one point. We've had some cancellations due to weather related issues and events, but in the evening we have cricket on at West Park from 6 o'clock for 20 over artificial cricket, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday's a bit of a hard sell, and then we've got grass wicket for West Bridgford Legion on a Saturday, and then they sometimes have a second team on a Sunday, which are playing 50 over all day long stuff. So absolutely, if we could do it, but it's just making sure that they will be using an artificial wicket instead of a grass wicket.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher, you're next on my list.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Derek, for an informative presentation. My question is there any intention to work more closely with parishes and town councils to get the facilities that you're struggling to cover? You spoke about getting in conjunction with County Cricket Club. We've got two projects that we're looking into. One will be an indoor nets, so we'll have a winter cricket facility. And also, when the community centre is eventually put up in the village, we're also looking into having a paddle tennis, which seems to be a very popular sport. And the only venue I can see around here at the moment is Nottingham County Football Ground.
So slightly separate facilities. We have a play and pitch strategy for the council, which sits under, as this facility sits under the suite of documents under our leisure strategy. So we regularly update the play and pitch strategy. And I know the indoor facility in which you refer in Ruddington, and the proposals for that. And there is, as I said, in terms of the nets project at West Park, that's an outdoor nets facility, but there is a demand for for more indoor nets facilities. And the ECB have identified if we can find sports hall that would want those nets, they can provide grants to provide those, because a lot of the cricket teams are struggling. And obviously, which leads you on to your point in terms of doing that. Paddle tennis I've had lots of people saying, can you change West Park to be for one of those courts, the one that's not used for mini tennis? Could that be a paddle tennis court? So what we need to do is we need to look at it from a play and pitch strategy, from an NGB perspective, and see if there's the demand level, because it would require capital investment, and you want to make sure that that investment's meeting the needs of the community. So it's driven by strategy, and it's driven by the NGBs for the demand. So we're constantly reviewing that document, not just for the borough council facilities, but all of the towns and parishes. So we're always seeking feedback when people are trying to bring projects. So if you look at our play and pitch strategy action plan, it'll identify all of those sites where play and pitches are across the borough, and what their proposed redevelopments are, and what the timescales, and if it's strategically important or locally important. Okay.
Yeah, so there is a possibility that we could work in partnership with something.
The borough council stands ready to work in particularly for sports improvements and infrastructure. Obviously, all these things are subject, in terms of a parish or a club that is working in collaboration with a parish, bringing those projects forward. We try, and through my sports development function and through our leisure strategies, to facilitate inward investment from grants and NGPs to support those. There obviously, any development is subject to the planning restrictions, because I'm not immune to having to submit planning applications for anything we want to do on our sites over. So if they fit with the needs of the strategy, and if they fit, and if they're planning compliant, we're very keen to support.
Councillor Mallinder.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, you just chucked NGB, so I didn't quite catch it. I lost the acronyms are coming thick and fast. So I lost the context there.
Sorry. National governing bodies. So via Sports England, there are a number of national governing bodies for the sport. So when I refer to ECB, it's the England and Wales Cricket Board. When I refer to England Athletics, British Triathlon, they're their national governing bodies.
Thanks. I thought you were talking about one of our restructured growth boards there, and yes. I kind of lost track of which bit we were talking. We were talking about.
So obviously.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it was a really good report. Lots of interesting stuff in it. I really like the online booking system. I've been having a sort of play around with it while we were talking. I think it looks really good. I think it's really comprehensive. Won't let me log in and play with everything in a minute, but I might have another go later on. Just reference what you say about parking, be quite useful. There's an about section on it for each of the areas. It would be good if it included information about where you can and can't park, and also information about getting there by public transport or walking, and highlighting the fact that actually a lot of these places, particularly in West Bridgford, are really easily within walking distance or cycling distance. No need for people to jump into their latest mini SUV, which is bigger than your dad's old estate car, and drive about what is actually a quarter of the mile to let one child out. I mean, that's crazy. And we really should be doing more about that. And, I know that it's not an internal system to us, but it's got an about bit there that we obviously fill in. We can put something in there and help address the problem, I think. In terms of the future, I think you kind of covered my question. Actually, it was about how do we look to see what new sports are coming down the line, because things go in and out of fashion. When we were doing this place, we were looking at squash versus badminton and multi-use and all this kind of stuff. But I think you kind of covered that off. Thank you. So can we put something on the about bit to do with getting there to venues by sustainable travel, by not in a car?
We have some information. Obviously, it's probably buried within the content of when you go through the website, because on pitch bookings, you go through the booking stage, and then it tells you all the things at the end in terms of what you expect, the standards we expect them to hold. But what we try to do is when people are making a booking and when they're putting in their bookings, and when we're inviting teams to come and make bookings, we sending out that information about, as I said, about, you know, cycle, car share, you know, restricted, you know, limited car parking. So that the home teams can send that to the away teams as well. So because we're mindful of parking being a challenge across our sites.
You care enough about your children's future to take them to a sports venue, then you should care enough about the planet they live on not to destroy it by getting there.
Is that something kind of with even with the not just with the sports places, but also with the community halls, that they kind of have something that goes out that says to them what the nearest bus stop is, what that bus is, that kind of stuff. And like with Gresham, like you listed off with the bus, the tram, the cycle routes, and that type of thing. Is that something that could, when somebody's booked, kind of all those to just try and promote them, and particularly with the like the community halls and that, so people know how to get there.
Yeah, I'll absolutely take that away and make sure that it's reinforced. I think it'll help both my colleagues to my left and right in terms of some of the challenges they face in terms of car parking management.
Councillor Billing.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Derek. It's a fantastic presentation. I just wanted to pick up on two minor things. Well, one's a bit bigger, one's minor. The minor one on the financing. Just doing a quick tally of the table 1 and table 2. The projected was 365,600, and you actually brought in 376. So when we're talking about it being net, sort of net zero on cost for the borough, would you say that we're in a healthy position at the moment, but things can improve? That's the first one.
So I think it's when you delve into the figures, it's a glass half full and glass half empty. We're doing well because if you look at it in a post-COVID context, you know, people re-engage with their outdoor spaces and people wanted to go and get healthy in that. And we've done a lot of investment. We've levered in over £500,000 into Gresham to create that second 3G pitch, and we've done some grass pitch improvements. We've secured some community infrastructure levy for the pitches on Alfred Road, which is currently getting done at the moment. We've invested in West Park, and I shared the blog to just give you a bit of an idea of what that looks like. But we still continue to want to strive to make sure that the built venues, the community halls, and that. So when he looks at in the round, you know, we're in a net positive position. But I've broken it down to show you that the glass is half full, because we really want to get, particularly Gamson Community Hall and Sir Julian Khan, really up and really busy, like this place is proven to be, because we've gone out and targeted specific groups that we want to get, and because this venue is more technologically enabled, it's attracting those businesses and the changing needs of the communities, because they want to come to venues now that they can log onto a Wi-Fi and they can use AV equipment and that, and our venues have traditionally been a space. So even community groups now, so if you think of some support groups or some health groups, they want to be able to show a PowerPoint presentation with a YouTube enabled clip like we've just done this evening. So parking's pretty good. You know, in terms of the round, I know we've discussed Gresham, some of the challenges that we have there, but you know, West Park has got excellent car parking facilities. So has Rushcliffe Country Park. Country Park is the only monetised car park. Gamston, beside Morrison's, got a healthy car parking for the size of the venue. And here has got fantastic parking. You know, if we look at if we look across in the city where it can be a challenge to get in, and parking can be quite expensive, we've got good transport links. We've got good networks. We're close to the tram. So I think it's just there are some pinch points, but as I said, we're working on trying to resolve those, but within the context of not being able to create more car parks. So.
The second point was, you mentioned about discounts on booking fees. Can you expand a bit on that, because we haven't actually touched on that yet?
Yeah, so traditionally there was a little bit more discretion on being able to provide discounts to try and get people to book in. So the council has, as you will know from full council, we have our annual published fees and charges. So we're working out what that is. So, but in the venues, sometimes we've had people come and say, I can't afford that. Can I have a discount because I'm a community group or whatever and that. But we undertook an audit to see in terms of the customers that we had and how aligned they were with the fees and charges because it's important. So we've obviously been going back and having conversation with those people that have traditionally been on the discount to bring them back in line with the fees and charges so that they're accurately reflecting what we value the venue to be within their appropriate banding. So if they're a commercial organisation and they've been enjoying a discount, we need to say, well, you're a commercial organisation, you need to pay the appropriate fees and charges. So there's been a quite an extensive audit and reconciliation process which we've worked over to the last year, and we know we have lost some customers along the way. But what's important is that the customers that we replace them are on the right terms and conditions and are on the right fees and charges. So that has had its challenges, but it's important that we have a process in place that the business that we've got is really good quality business. So we've also changed the policy following the audit that we did with finance is if somebody says, I want a discount, we produce a paper which goes to our service manager for finance and our service manager for neighbourhoods so they can consider it. So if they say we want an introductory price, which is time limited, we will say that, and what's the reason for it? So is it charity? Is it because you're a new business trying to establish? We understand that there is these issues in the marketplace, but now we've got a digital booking. We can default it for when that discount runs out and goes off. I'm not a massive fan of giving discount codes out for everything because you'll get because then you're not getting the true value of the venue. So our next stage within our marketing plan is looking at when our peak and troughs are demand and then being able to say, we'll do a discount on this because the demand level's not there. And that may be over summer periods and that's why the marketing plan our marketing is much more targeted because we're getting the intelligence now from the system to say this is where your peaks and your troughs are. So if we are looking to replace that, what's the type of business we want and when is that downtime? So we can look to discount that and that would be agreed through service managers. But when you get an individual that comes and says, this the fees and charge, but I don't want to pay that, I want to pay this, then it's, well, what's your case? And we will put that case on their behalf and usually get a response from our service manager.
Just in relation to your first question, thank you for pointing out that actually if you take what you're basically saying is the overperformance of Gresham is outweighing some of the underperformance in other areas. So you're correct, we are in a sort of net good position at the moment. I think probably it's fair to say, and this is one of the reasons why we're not just sitting on our laurels and why we've got this marketing plan. If Gresham is going to continue to perform like that, it's highly likely our target for Gresham the following year will probably be based on the actual figures. So I think that 108 figure is probably likely to be go up quite a lot, which is why we want to sort of keep developing them as well.
Councillor Plum.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Derek, for a very thorough and very informative report. I think we have, certainly in West Bridgeford, very good community venues and facilities without a doubt, and I can certainly appreciate the work that actually is involved to keep all of that going. And obviously, certainly with Councillor Mander's point, that obviously things change and you've got to sort of try and be ahead in the game in terms of what facilities people want. And I'm also very pleased to see that the social value of these facilities are emphasised because, yes, obviously we certainly don't want to be running at a loss without a doubt, but it is really the importance that it's what they provide for the residents of the borough as a whole. Really, that it is has equal importance without a doubt. I'm certainly pleased about the booking system because I know that a few years ago the booking system was pretty shocking without a doubt. So obviously we've certainly moved forward on that and going to the 21st century. And I'm also very pleased about the improvements that are going to be done to Julian Calm because that is such a beautiful setting and a beautiful building that it really, it's, you know, but it also needs to be, well, it's a shame that it's not getting the usage that it could get, and obviously that's been addressed, so that's good. And I think there was one, oh yes, and it was Alford Road. You mentioned, I mean, I can remember that I've driven or tried to drive up that way when we had the really bad floods, and it is very waterlogged a lot of the time. So I was just wondering how you're getting on with Severn Trent in terms of addressing that issue, because it's really important that something is done, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'll probably pass it over to Ricky, but Ricky's had some success this week in terms of working with Severn Trent, where they've identified some sewer issues, which has led to a 25% restriction on the network in that area. And we're also doing some extensive. So there is surface water on the pitches because for many years, you'll know if you, a bit technical, if you ground spike and aerate pitches and if you sand treat them and that, the surface water will go down below the surface and they'll become playable. So that's what we've done a lot of work at Gresham, and it's paid dividends. So we've used some community infrastructure level because of the sheer demand for that, and we were successful in support with that. And Ricky has been working with Severn Trent to explore all the things about the attenuation tank that was constructed on that site in 2020 and has had some success this week. Sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's very difficult dealing with Severn Trent. We had to get EMT involved right up to the top just to get an answer from them. Luckily enough, they've had a new bloke start for them who's been really helpful and has started to look into the problems that we've had. But it's basically the silting up. They've got to put cameras down. But this man from Severn Trent's doing a lot of work to try and get engineers down to just look into the problem, because it's not only Alford Road, it's where it goes to after Alford Road, and it's backing up and coming out of the attenuation tanks. And so at the moment, we're just at that stage of keep shoving him to get engineers down to try. We have got large groundworks down there now doing a lot of work to try and improve the surface, because I don't know whether you travel past it, but it looks wonderful at the moment, mainly because of the weather, I suppose. But we have had a lot of work done on it, and this work will carry on right into the winter. So we're hoping to get a lot more, being able to play up there a lot more, and it will be children mainly that we're playing up there.
Sorry, so it's fingers crossed that improvements will be made.
He has reported this week that they have found a sewer which has there is a 25% restriction in network, so you can have the attenuation tank, but if it's not going downstream, that's going to back up. So that's a quarter of its capacity. You know, when you're part, because it's all a connected system to the pumping stations that are within wider West Bridgeford. So that's fantastic news. We just want to, as Ricky says, we want to make sure that they explore every aspect of it, so that we've got the best chance when it starts to rain heavily again, that it's that the site, not just Alford Road, because obviously we're a local authority, the bus stop, Alford Road itself, because of the impact that could have on the highway, especially if it froze.
Councillor Pratt.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 6 questions. I'll go one by one. But first of all, thank you for your comprehensive presentation. I've personally used your booking facility not that long ago, and it was very effective, very convenient. So thank you for that. It was very informative. Now, my first question is that I was looking at the website of the Rushcliffe venues, and Gamston Hall is being marketed as a wedding hall or a function hall. And just wondering, why is there no facility or as consideration being given to have a bar there if it's a wedding function and it's open till midnight? And or if we can't have a bar, what about people who want to bring in alcohol, and are there corkage fees that we could charge?
So yes, so it used to have a licensed bar within it, but it's the type of the wedding market that is come, or the adult parties that have come and are using Gamson Community Hall don't want a bar at the moment. They're dry adult celebrations, weddings. And what we're trying to do, if you look at Gamson Community Hall as a sports hall, it's quite hard to dress as a wedding venue. So we've traditionally tried to focus people towards West Park Sir Julian Kahn Pavilion, which is more attractive venue, and it has a bar. But we're seeing a particular change in demand for parties, and you know, there's a change in trend in demand of people actually drinking. We find quite a strong competitor within the venues and the bars and restaurants within West Bridgford to have rooms. So the change in trend and demand that we're seeing is more people wanting to have dry adult parties and or children's parties, or more meeting type bookings, engagements, and that. So at the moment, we're not, when people make a inquiry about a wedding or an adult function at Gamsden, a bar is not a requirement that they're asking for.
Okay, thank you. My second question is about Luttrell Hall. Now, I've only been a councillor for a year, so I'm sorry if this question's been asked before. You did an options appraisal in, I believe, in 2020. So my question is, do the Rock Church, who is having the operational management of the Luttrell Hall, do they pay anything to us? And what are our liabilities towards Luttrell Hall at the minute?
So I wasn't involved in that piece of work in terms of the options appraisal. We do have a service level agreement. I'd have to check in terms of a management fee. The Borough Council still owns the building, and they have a requirement to ensure the building fabric, because it's a building. I think the option appraisal that you're referring to was looking about the disposal. So there was three options: disposal, because I think it was around the time when there was looking to develop the police station, the retaining of as a community venue managed by the Borough Council, or looking for a third party community management. And I think the outcome of that options appraisal was the community management. I would have to check in terms of the financials, and I can take that away as an action if required.
It'd be just nice to get an idea of what we get paid for whatever agreement we have with them. So in terms of the costings, the third one I've had is you've mentioned the Edwalton Community Hall, and building works will soon start with it. So how are you going to drive the strategy in terms of how are you going to decide what that hall is fit for? So are you going to consult the community? Are you going to look at surveys? Because we've all heard today that there's a demand for certain sports facilities on net sports, especially racket sports. So how are we going to drive? How are we going to market it? How are we going to build that hall? Do we have a vision yet? And if there isn't, is there scope for the community to get involved with that?
Yeah. So that community hall has got approved planning permission. It's not a sports hall, because just to think of badminton as an example, in Gamson Community Hall, which is a two courts a sports hall, the requirement is a very, very high roof. The planning for what was acceptable in terms of that community was to build a facility probably more similar to Rushcliffe Country Park. It's going to have a country park on its doorstep, and the Borough Council owns Sharp Hill Woods is just beyond it. So we have an active Friends of group for Sharp Hill Woods, but it's designed to be a local community centre. serving the needs of that community. Where we saw an issue, so there's a school, a primary school, been built on that development, which has an integrated sports hall for larger venues, where but in the building of that, it's going to have its safeguarding requirements, so it couldn't provide community access throughout the day. So if you think of the groups that are likely to use it, it's more like your play group, toddler groups, your tea dances for the older community as it emerges throughout the day, your friends of groups that are going to be using the country park, and then you'll probably see more small scale type of Pilates or yoga activities in the evening, like we have at our other venues. But that will be, the idea of that venue, as in Scamston, really, is to provide an opportunity for people that live within that community to have a space within that community. Because you've got to look at it in balance between the Rushcliffe Spencer Academy Primary School, the facilities that are on site there, that if you wanted to have a large scale public gathering for up to 150, you would do that in the evening. If you want to have a small venue capable of taking 20 to 30 people during the day when the school is occupied, you would use that. But you will also have, so it'll only be capable of taking 30 to 45 people. But as the local ward councillor, you may wish to book that to run your clinics in the evening.
Thank you. Next one, in the report, I read somewhere that the council has an ability to hire open spaces. What does that mean? Could you expand on that?
So we hire Bridgefield predominantly for car parking for Trent Bridge. We had our open spaces are looking healthy as well, because we supported the Take That concert and provided parking with big parking on that. We hired a croquet lawn for markets and stalls to provide support to the town centre economy. You can hire Rushcliffe Country Park if you wish to. So, we have had Capital One and Eon have had their, in the kite field, have had their space. We do have the ability to be able to hire Bridgeford Park and the Hook if we wanted to, but it's very rare, and that would be by inquiry only, because we are protecting those parks. So it'd be very unusual, and it would have to meet, it'd have to really promote the aims of the council. So it's not that we would have a private provider coming in and delivering problems of the park, because we're in a very residential area and we are custodians of that park. So we've got the ability to be able to hold functions there. It's just very rare, because this is where it comes back to social value and capitalisation. We have to make sure that we're appropriate custodians for those spaces.
So thank you. Just building upon that about hiring Rushcliffe Park, the reason why I asked you the question about the ability to hire open spaces, I look at Nottingham City Council, and they've got the Bulletin Hall and the park, and I see throughout the year they have various events. So some of them being like, I don't know, the Diwali festival, the Eid in the park, Diwali in the park, a yoga festival. There's lots that goes on there, and I'm wondering whether we, as a council, do we have capacity to open up that stream to kind of cater to the community? Obviously we charge, but do we have, I mean, because on the venues it's not very clear how we hire Rushcliffe Park if we want for an event. So if, say, a community group wanted to, maybe one of the biggest festivals, maybe it's Diwali, maybe it's Eid, maybe they want to do something in the community park, and not for the whole day, but probably say 4 or 5 hours, because then that would get a huge population in the borough coming to that event. How is that a possibility? Is that something you would look at?
Yeah, so yes, it is possible. Why it's not obvious? It's because it's by request only. So for large scale events like that, Rushcliffe Country Park isn't got the same capacity as Wullerton Hall's Deer Park, as you can imagine, and this is where Rushcliffe Country Park, we have to look at the balance between the biodiversity and ecology of the park. So it really has, and this is where I'll be involved in the service manager and the executive manager. So there's lots of conversations we've had with people that have wanted to hold festivals on our site. It's the appropriateness of it, and to make sure that we obviously have to find that balance. Two of the festivals you've described there are in October, November time. So it's what, you know, what event infrastructure would you need in terms of lights and the amount of people you would take on site. So it's about time of year, appropriateness. What's the primary use of the park? Is it going to complement the park, or has it the potential to cause damage? Because if I was to make £3,000 or £4,000 as an event operator, but I was to get residents' complaints and members' complaints for the inappropriate nature of going after money, it's about trying to strike that balance between social good and social value.
And is there any I don't know, is there any document, are there any guidelines if somebody because you said it's only on a request basis now. I say if I want to, let's put an example, if I want to hold a Diwali festival for the Indians in Rushcliffe, what do I do? Not that I'm going to hold it. I don't have the capacity. But I'm just giving an example. I've got enough on my plate. But if I want to do that, and how do I go about it? Do I approach you? Would you provide me with guidelines? Do I direct someone to contact you?
Yeah, so you would approach the community facilities team. So the community facilities team, it's a bit of we've got a bit of matrix management. So for the country park, using that as the example, they would take the details of your booking. What do you want? When do you want to put it? How many people are you expecting? What is your event management plan? That would then come to the manager. If it's an unusual request like this or needs support, we would go out back and ask supplementary questions. Then I would take that to the senior management to say, we've had this request. This is what it amounts to, and then we would weigh that up in terms of the balance, in terms of is it appropriate, and you know, once we've got like policy and decisions, it can be subjective in terms of senior management saying we don't feel this is appropriate, or we do feel this is appropriate, or this has a massive community benefit, so we feel it's appropriate. And then again, it's balancing that off about, again, coming back to ecology, biodiversity of the spaces to make sure that we're not causing irrevocable damage by delivering them.
Thank you. Last question. I promise I'll stop after that. You mentioned about making space for girls and inclusivity. So just wanted you to expand a little bit more about that, and who is being consulted for that space for girls? Like, are we consulting any groups? Or, I mean, the question is, what is driving that demand?
Yeah, so there's two elements to that. So again, using our play and pitch strategy, there's a significant demand level for women and girls sport. We are working with using Gresham and our sports business as an example. This is why we're trying to bend and flex everything so that we can have equal participation. So that's where a lot of demand has been driven for pitches, because whilst there were like more gender specific previously, there, you know, it's much more inclusive now. We're very proud to have the Pan Disability League. The East Midlands Pan Disability League is their home is Gresham. So every third Sunday of the month they use our venue, which is great. Specifically about making space for girls, and that outside of sport, we have just launched, so you will see probably on social media, we just launched a resident survey about our open spaces and play spaces, where we've listed every play space within the borough, both borough council and parishes and management companies, and we're asking feedback for that, because play spaces and the open space around them have traditionally been more designed to cater for boys, particularly about teenage facilities. So there's been a lot of work done about making space for girls, how can they feel safer going to those spaces, and how they can proactively take part in exercise and sport. And that will inform that, so that we are providing better policies moving forward, because that's another facet of this, in terms of it's not just community venues, playing pitches, it's parks, playing fields and open spaces, for which playgrounds are. as a part of Ricky's team, we've got 16 play areas across the West Bridgeford special expense areas, which we manage and maintain. We've got skate parks, we've got teenage ball court areas within the capital programme. For this year, I'm looking at Bridgeford Park, looking at inclusion, and we're looking at Bridgefield teen space to making that more appropriate. And some of this consultation will inform that. So that works will happen before the end of the financial year. In March, you will have a new teenage play facility on Bridgefield, which is designed to be more inclusive and more to cater for these emerging trends.
Thank you very much and for patiently answering all my questions.
Yeah, I'll just one quick point as well before we wrap. Ricky and his team, it's really the service has changed significantly. I think when Ricky joined, it was very much it was more of a caretaking facility. It's really a support service now. Since we've moved to this building, we provide support for property and estates and the other services across the council. So it's certainly changed in the 14, 15 years in terms of that you've worked in the area. So it's very much an integrated part of the council. So it's not just the venues; it's a part of the other estate as well. So we're trying to make sure that when we are making changes, that they're complementing our estates. We're supporting businesses, we're supporting communities, we're supporting the Cochrane Hub, we're supporting the buildings in Bingham as well. So yeah.
Councillor Barney.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, sincere apologies for my incredible lateness this evening to both you and the Vice Chairman. Very sorry about that. Probably lost my right to speak, so I'll be brief. I just wanted to pick up on touch rugby. I was privileged to attend that event quite a lot last week. It was absolutely incredible. Opened by the Lord Lieutenant Pickering. Amazing. The joy at that celebration. I think 39 nations represented, over 4,000 people. And Rushcliffe playing such a massive role in that. The leader was there as well at the opening ceremony. But I kept seeing faces as well, people we recognise. Rob Inglis, massively involved in touch rugby. Duncan Collins, who was a former long-standing employee of this authority, I saw there as well, massively involved in touch rugby. And lots of other people that probably also involved in Rushcliffe Council in various different ways, involved as part of their hobby in their life. So really phenomenal event. The Olympics has got a lot, I think, to keep up with what happened at that. So hats off to that. I also just wonder if there's a way we should recognise actually touch rugby is a really, really rapidly growing sport. Having spent the week there, I'm still not sure I understand all the rules fully, but it's incredibly good fun, really, really fast paced. I can see why it's growing, and mixed sex as well. So the games take place with mixed sex teams. So really, really exciting. But because it's got a beating heart here in Rushcliffe, I wonder if there's other ways we could reach out and support and just acknowledging actually the incredible World Cup event that they put on. I'll quickly couple of other points as well. So Graham, not to try and take away from your support for your local community there in Rudgington, which massively endorsed, but it made me think about Sutton Boddington. There's so much going on there just locally, sporting wise. We've got an under 16 girls team that's just started up. We're trying to rebuild our pavilion. We've got amazing stuff going on with the football and the rugby club and the cricket clubs there. All of these little organisations, how do they reach out to Rushcliffe for support? Because in many respects, some are doing really, really well, but others are really struggling, and there might be small ways we can help. Who do they reach out to? How do we get that going? And finally, just again thinking how much is going, I think sometimes, but then across my county patch, there's so many things that I'm aware of, and probably loads I'm not aware of. Is there a map? Is there a catalogue of all of these activities going on? And if there isn't, there ought to be.
So in terms of your first question, yeah, we were delighted. So we are the home of Nottinghamshire Touch at Gresham. So they hire the artificial turf pitches during the week, and in the summer, when the football stops, it's a bit like winter crop rotation to summer crops. We cut the pitches and then we mark them out for touch rugby. So they have a permanent presence at Gresham from May till the end of July. We haven't actually installed another cricket wicket as well. So we're going to look about how we move those people around site as well to be able to support their needs. We've had lots of England touch are using ours as a central England base because of our geographic location and the facilities that we've invested in. So obviously, I think it demonstrates that our invested in the right ways is seeing its dividends. unfortunately, the team manager for community development is unable to be here today, but she really worked hard in terms of attracting New Zealand Touch, in terms of making sure that they paid their international bank transfer for the Chem. Really goes above and beyond, organised the flags for and the arrival party, so that New Zealand felt like when they had a training base that she was really great in doing that, and she's been a key catalyst in levering in those larger contracted bookings as well. In terms of your second point, there are about 120 clubs based across Rushcliffe. We have a dedicated sports development officer, and we have a leisure strategy and a play and pitch strategy. So if anybody has any questions or if they have support needs, Amy Alworthy, who's our sports development officer, will be delighted to help. I am very keen in terms of the head of leisure to make sure that if anybody has any development plans or aspirational plans, that we capture those in our play and pitch strategies. Because then we can go back to the NGBs and say that there's a demand here, and if it's captured in that document, it levers in additional funding from those NGBs. So much so that I'm meeting in a month's time because the Nottinghamshire FA are updating their local facilities football plan, and we send out consultation to say what's your development needs, and then sometimes you don't get anything back, and then sometimes somebody new comes that's young and enthusiastic, not necessarily young, but has the time and in the enthusiasm because they've got a person that they want to take part in that sport, and they come onto a group and they're invigorated, and then they come and say, we want to do this, but we want to do it now. So it's trying to understand the club's 5 and 10 years visions to make sure that we capture it so that it fits in the kind of wider jigsaw. There's a huge amount of clubs and support that we provide, so we're really keen to know about that as much as possible so that we can signpost the funding, we can provide grant information, we can capture that information in our development plans so that they're able to meet the requirements. There is Section 106 monies and SIL that we take from housing developments for when we see growth, that are there to invest in those facilities to make sure that they meet the growing demands in the communities. So it's important that we know about those plans so that we can make sure that investment is spent, because I'm capturing at one side, I need those plans to come forward to be able to facilitate it. I can't remember if there was another one, but yeah, I think I've answered.
I just wanted to talk about with the community facilities. You've shown us the videos and the video with all of the facilities and the halls and all that type of thing. And you've provided us with the marketing plan, kind of just going forward to just try and get a bit more of the interest. What other kind of things are you doing? Is it just going to be kind of on the social media and being with the CRF, kind of looking at who's previously booked, kind of just going out to them and highlighting and that? But is there anything else that you're kind of going to be doing at the venue, like an open day, for instance, and that kind of stuff, and other items, just looking at how just to promote them and to boost them as now and what their offerings are, and just kind of then seeing what the actual market is then looking to go there, even though in the best one in the world we might think that we know what the market is and going with the technology, which is always a big thing, and upgrading, but there might be something else that might not have actually discovered.
Yeah, so in the handouts of the community venue marketing plan, I've tried to provide it's quite a concise document in terms of an executive summary, the goals and objectives. So increase revenue, raise awareness, I think is the key point you're making, and then revenue growth. Our target audience, because they're community venues, is our local residents, our local businesses, event organisers, as Councillor Perec mentioned, and then community and not-for-profit organisations. But I'll just draw you down to the budget in terms of we're constantly looking to update our images, because if you go to a venue and it goes, oh, that's what looks great online, but that's what it looked like 10 years ago. So we're trying to make sure as we go through that investment. Sir Julian Khan's a really good example. When we redevelop that throughout the course of this financial year, it's going to be a fantastic venue when we get that. we always do SEO, so search engine optimization, and reviews to do it. So I've tried to lay out in terms of the budget where we can do it at no cost, and we can do some social media boosted posts so that it gets more when if you're on social media. But I also reference community showcase events, which we would look to market the venue and invite the community and put on something, either at Gamston or Sir Julian Can when that venue comes available, that it draws in the new customers as well. So I tried to set out in the 2-page strategy how we plan to do that. So community and corporate outreach, local media, venue signage, really improving our venue signage has been quite poor, and it's quite old. So as we go around with our capital redevelopment, we're doing that. I split out into the quarters how we're doing it, and it's linked to the ongoing monthly marketing, and then how we'll evaluate and monitor performance. Okay.
Got any? Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you, Chairman. I noticed on Councillor Billings' question about discounts that there was no mention of any discount for people that live in the borough, that use the borough facilities, over, say, the people that live in the city. We do a councillor's surgery on our monthly market. It has been mentioned to me in the past by some residents that they think that maybe, there should be a better rate for them. They live in the borough and they pay their taxes, is what was said to me.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer it. I think it would be a challenge for us, because sometimes you mightn't be a resident of the borough, but you might have a business, or you might have be a part of a community organisation. I think it would be difficult for us to address. I understand where people are coming from, because these venues, that the majority of the venues, such as Julian Can, Gamston, are paid for out of a special expense budget for West Bridgford. So they are for the local community, and that's where we are marketing to those communities. Gresham is a general expense because it serves a wider area, so it serves it provides training pitches for people coming from Ruddington and further afield, and we do get teams that are booking it from outside of the boroughs. So we would need. It would need investigate, but we need to be careful that we're not discriminatory in ways. So what we try and do is we base it off: are they commercial? So are they running it for a profit? So is it a business? Are they not for profit? Are they a charity? Or if there's another social reason to do it. So to give an example, we've been trying to get a dementia cafe off. So we've been running one at Rushcliffe Country Park. So we're looking, that would be the type of organisation where it's really touch upon the values of the organisation and what we're trying to promote, where there's where we see a demand because of our values, and that's what we would look to provide discounts for. So we're trying to be clear around those parameters.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't really clear. I meant more on the community centre, like you say, the weddings and the parties and things like that.
It's certainly something I could take away and look at, but the fees and charges will be set by the council in terms of and what our discount rates are in terms of the rate card ultimately.
We're happy to take it away and try and get some more information. I do know generally, because I do get to see the fees and charges for a number of areas, it's quite rare that we have concessions generally as a council across all fees and charges. I think, as Derek says, because it's then which groups do you give them to and which groups do you not. So I think generally our fees and charges are hopefully set at what is a reasonable competitive price. But I can't remember seeing any particular area that has concessions for. You start then, don't you, get into the things about car parking. So if you live in Rushcliffe, you pay slightly less than if you're visiting Rushcliffe and stuff. So, but it's certainly something I have to take away and come back to you on.
Thank you.
Just a quickie. We've been talking about discounts, or rather you've been talking about discounts. What sort of range are we talking about? It's 10% to 50%, or?
that depends on the business case that's provided. So in terms
but
of
just in general terms, you've given us no idea about the scale of the discounts. Does anybody get 50%, for instance?
no. So I'm being kind because I don't like I don't want to. I think, you know, in terms of the fees and charges, and I think there has to be a really strong, robust business case. It's a lesser charge if you're so that the rates are charged at commercial rate, standard rate, and charity rate. So so they're on a tiered system. So they should really align with that because at a charity rate we're covering the cost of the staff members and the heat to service the building. So that's, you know, it's as low as we can deem to go as a council. So outside of that, if somebody wants an additional discount, it has to be a really strong, robust business case for what that is. And then I think it comes down to the negotiation because it sits outside of the established fees and charges. What we are trying to do is move away to it making, and we constantly reviews our fees and charges, and we will continue to do so. We'll do our budget setting exercise in September because I want to make sure that we are not missing business because we're overpriced or we're underpriced. So it's about finding that Pareto optimum in terms of what is the appropriate fees and charges for that venue to maximise usage and maximise income.
Totally understand what you're saying, and I can understand the complexity of the situation, but you've still given us no idea of the. Sorry?
Since I signed them off, I'm happy to give you a very rough idea.
Yeah, thank you.
So the team will come to me, and if there's a really compelling case, then I will agree, along with my colleague Sarah Whitaker, who's the Service Manager of Finance, will offer that discount. I would say it would never sign one off. It's probably more than 20%. And I would say a lot of them are probably 5-10%.
And time limited.
Yeah.
Right, unless there's any other hands that are indicating to ask any other further questions, I think I'll kind of just cover the recommendation that we have, as always, when we're discussing community scrutiny. These items that it's recommended that Community Scrutiny Group considers the contents of the report and presentation and makes comments on the provision of the community facilities operated by the council. So I think we've all demonstrated that we've met that. So unless I won't ask for a show of hands, but if there's anybody who disagrees that and we haven't met it, then please indicate now. So thank you very much, Derek and Ricky, for your time and answering all those questions and everything, and with the presentation and everything for tonight, and all the hard work that you do with managing the community facilities around the borough. So thank you very much for tonight. Right, just now to go on to the next item of the agenda is the work programme, which councillors may have noticed that there's been little change since the last community scrutiny because of various elections. The last corporate overview group scrutiny items weren't considered, so we didn't actually have any added to the programme. So speculation is we might have a backlog that myself and Councillor Plant will have to go through and try and fit in with the rest of the corporate overview group. But we do have for the next meeting on the 17th of October, which will be a joint scrutiny group with growth and development, that's it, scrutiny on accessible housing brief. So that's the kind of, at the moment, the only item on the programme. But I'm sure that it will appear most probably on the April agenda is a review of the carbon management plan, which is often a yearly kind of review.
I'll keep away.
So, unless I've got any questions around the work programme, I'll just ask for a show of hands to accept that, please. Thank you very much. And that's all the items on my agenda. Thank you very much for this evening, councillors, and for all the comments and questions.